Hi, I'm Russell Jones. I'm Master Builder. Oh, did you join last one? You joined AAC officially on Thursday. Get on the news.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I'm serious about it. I was signed up. I was online, I was waiting, and I had to go down. I've been a new officer.
That's fantastic.
And in our office, I go, somebody's gotta come in here. It's important. And
Oh, sure, sure. That's awesome. Well, it's great that this group is together. It's good. I love the fact that we're able to get together and do some grants. Past years. It's really cool. Okay, just to watch and see things.
Sonari's a lot taller than I remember.
Okay.
I've never met
Good.
her.
Right over here on the other side.
Sonari, you're a lot taller than I remember.
A number of times.
My bus stream's just out there.
On 167.
They're out this way.
If I call on you to just let people know.
One's out that way are easier access for everyone.
This may be hard.
Yeah. I mean, no.
Question, does anyone have an iPhone charger?
Because you know, they're the right.
No, like a charger.
Where you were this part?
Not with an iPhone. I don't think it
No.
How we doing?
Oh, I know.
And then I realized sitting around that I was fine. I just don't even finish.
I did not, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's why I'm.
So.
Hey, because you're just coming around with a box.
I had.
Yeah. I don't think that one came out of the box.
No.
You took backup. Oh, yeah. You make if I can get it to work.
So I have this one that just doesn't.
Thank you.
Last day with her. I do, yeah. So nice. Yeah, right.
It's fine. So I'm just telling you, don't
I don't know. Yeah. Running much.
We were playing. No. Oh, it's gonna be a really good discussion. Read those stickers and cool stickers there to look at that. So it's just, comes out and where is it? More than others. Right?
Good. You know, you remember what was it? Something that happened and I wasn't able to go. So, all right.
That's, I mean, that's, yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Auburn City Hall. It is so good to see people in person. Thank you for joining us. And do we have, and we do have some online, do we, or yes?
What do you know? It would be right at camera.
I know. Lucky us, right? All right, I will call the meeting to order for Friday, March 17th, 2023 and ask for roll call.
Yes, so Nancy,
I am here.
Dana. She did let me know she's running late, so she'll be here. Colleen.
Here.
Christina.
Here.
Tracy.
Here.
Brian.
Yeah.
Sarah's alternate. Sean.
Here.
Eric.
Hello, everyone.
He's attending online. Ryan. So Hannah's attending as an alternate, and Cynthia.
Here.
And Sonari.
Here.
Great, thank you.
All right, and then, excuse me, if we could have introductions of advisory board members and staff working group members. Keep us all going.
So we have folks in our audience here. We also have folks online. So how about a staff work group who's sitting here? We'll just go through.
Sure, I'm Nicholas Matz. I'm the planning director for the city of Normandy Park, staff to Eric Zimmerman.
I'm Bonnie Wilkins, the chief administrative officer for the city of Des Moines.
I'm Marina Hanson, Human Services Manager for the City of Kent and Staff Work Group Member.
Joy Staff, Community Services Manager with the City of Auburn.
Daphne Hernandez, Associate Planning for the City of Covington.
Troy Schmiel, Sapphire Homes, interested person.
I'm Russell Joe, External Relations Manager for Master Builders of King and Snohomish County.
And
I'm Laurel Humphrey, City of Tukwila Staff.
Judy?
I'm a guest, Judy Rowland, and I'm chair of the planning commission for the city of Auburn.
Welcome. And then folks online.
Yeah, I'll go first. Matt Torpy, Community Development Manager, City of Maple Valley.
J.C. Harris, Des Moines City Council.
Gene Oxiger, Des Moines City Council.
Hi, I'm Amy Kangas. I'm a member of the SKIP Advisory Board.
Michaela Daffern, lead staff to the King County Affordable Housing Committee, and I serve on the SKIP staff work group.
All right, super.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. As I said, it is great to have everyone here in person. And at this time, we will allow for public comment. Is there anyone here today that would like to provide public comment? Anyone online that would like to provide public comment?
No, ma'am.
All right, we will move on. Next is item 3 on the agenda, the approval of the February 17th, 2023 minutes. Is there a motion? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the February 17th, 2023 minute. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the approval of the February 17th, 2023 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Get them online too. Did you hear them?
Yes,
Okay,
he said aye.
perfect. All opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Next on new business. Look at that. I think we're right on schedule now. We're ahead of schedule. Look at that. See how quick we catch up in person. All right, for today, item A is the 2024 SKIP Work Plan Development Workshop, and we are going to be doing that for just about an hour. And as you can see on your agenda, purpose is to discuss the board's priorities for 2024 through a very interactive workshop. And then that will provide direction for our SKIP staff on the development of that work plan and budget. Because if you noticed on some of the worksheets that came out, excuse me, part of this does say that there could be budget implications to it by adding some of those priorities. So on the background, the SKIP's interlocal agreement requires the executive board to recommend an annual work plan by June 1st. And so this workshop is to ensure that priorities are all incorporated, and then recommend the 2024 work plan and budget at the May 19th executive board meeting, followed by review and adoption, as we do on this each year by each member jurisdiction by the end of the year. And at this point, I will turn it over to Claire.
Thank you, Mayor Backus, Nancy. So good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. I so appreciate you attending in person and gathering today. And also happy St. Patrick's Day, especially to Sean, who is all in green. And I know this is an important holiday for you. So for those that don't know, I'm Claire Goodwin. I'm the executive manager for SKIP. And my colleague in the back, Dorsal Plants, I want to shout out for his incredible work in helping set today's session up for us. So like we heard today, we're going to be discussing the executive board's 2024 priorities through an interactive workshop. And so don't worry, we're not going to do any trust falls. I heard that was a concern, so. And then also we want to just take a moment and acknowledge that this week we got the final adoption from your legislative bodies on using the housing capital funds to move forward with those projects. And so in honor of that, Dorsal and I, not knowing everyone else would bring sweets and chocolates, we did want to acknowledge that through some local Gosenko's chocolate for you all. If that is something that your city policies allow, please feel free to take a chocolate box now or at the end of the meeting. And if there's extras, everyone, please help yourself. So with that, looking at the agenda. All right. So the outline for today, we're going to be talking about SKIP's purpose and looking at our mission statement and the interlocal agreement. We're going to do an icebreaker, a short activity, and go through the current process for the work plan development. So what we have in mind for this year. We're going to look at the survey results that you took at the last meeting and looking at also the advisory board's results from that same survey. So we'll be doing an activity with that. And then finally, we're going to be doing a prioritization exercise with some of these easels on the back here. So with that, so today's goal is really to work collaboratively together. We haven't been in person, you guys told me, in 3 years. And so just, getting to convene together, to come together, I think is really important. And then, we're trying to do this interactive workshop to really leverage that opportunity. I'd like to get direction from you, from the board, to begin drafting the 2024 work plan and budget. So that I can have that prepared and ready for you by the May meeting. And that is in alignment with the ILA, as the chair mentioned. So it says that we need to have a work plan and budget for the following year prepared by June 1st for your recommendation. And SKIP is on the January 1st to December 31st budget cycle. So with that, so SKIP's mission. So the mission of SKIP is South King County jurisdictions working together and sharing resources to create a coordinated, comprehensive, and equitable approach to increasing housing stability, reducing homelessness, and producing and preserving quality, affordable housing in South King County. Does this sound familiar, or is this? All right, great. So we are all on the same page. So in terms of when I think about defining our coalition and who SKIP is, there's two places I look. One is the mission statement, which we just looked at, and then the other is the interlocal agreement, especially that introductory part under the whereas is. It really helps frame our scope, our mission, as it was established in 2019. And so I think part of today, I wanted to go through and look at those. I know you can't see it quite on your slide. I'm gonna just read through a few of these to help ground, I would say, the rest of the workshop. So in the ILA, it says SKIP has a common goal to ensure the availability of housing that meets the needs of all income levels in South King County. And that parties wish to provide a sound base of housing policies and programs in South King County, and to complement the efforts of existing public and private organizations to address housing needs in South King County. And when the ILA talks about parties, it's talking about the legislative bodies of each of your organizations. So parties wish to act cooperatively to formulate affordable housing policies and strategies that address housing stability, to foster efforts to preserve and provide affordable housing by combining public funding with private sector resources, to support implementation of the goals of the Growth Management Act, related countywide planning policies, and other local policies and programs related to affordable housing. And parties have determined that the most efficient and expeditious way for the parties to address affordable housing needs in South King County is through cooperative action and pooling public and private resources. And we have the pooling public resources down on, I know we're working on the private resources. And that SKIP will not duplicate efforts of nonprofit corporations and other entities already providing affordable housing related services, and a cooperative work plan with a primary focus on the production and preservation of affordable housing is needed, because the lack of access to affordable housing is one of the key contributors to homelessness. And that work plan activities will be consistent with the purpose described in the agreement. And the purpose described in the agreement is that all parties to this agreement have a responsibility for local and regional planning for the provision of housing affordable to residents that work and or live in South King County. The parties agreed to act cooperatively to formulate affordable housing policies that address housing stability and to foster efforts to preserve and provide affordable housing by combining public funding with private sector resources. So there's a lot there. And I know not everyone is looking at the ILA every night before bed like I am, but but these are, I think, just really key components to even just starting this conversation, to recall, I keep saying the phrase origin story. What is the origin story of SKIP? And so this information helps me ground myself in this work, and stay focused on what it is that we're here for. And so why are we even talking about affordable housing? I know this may seem obvious, but I also want to ask the question, because I think I think that that is also something important to think about. We always talk about kind of the production or the preservation of it, but getting even back to why we're even talking about that. I think that the ability to accommodate members of the community, for the ability for folks to live and work in the community that they're serving. So this could be seniors on fixed incomes, local restaurant, retail, grocery workers, and teachers. First-year teachers make about $60,000 a year. Young adults, so folks who are, graduating high school, maybe trying to get out on their own, or even maybe the 20-somethings still living at home that can't afford to live out on their own. And then also the future generations from the community, from our own children, our own grandchildren. We want to be able to accommodate them to be able to stay in the community. And in order to do that, we need to have enough housing available at all income levels. And then also, of course, vulnerable populations. So folks who are unhoused and experiencing other issues. So affordable housing also, the deficit disproportionately impacts communities of color. So close to 45% of South King County's BIPOC renter households are cost burdened, while 30% of white renter households are in South King County. And so we see that there is a discrepancy there. It's impacting folks disproportionately. And then, as talked about in our ILA, the lack of affordable housing is a key contributor to homelessness. And you may recall Greg Colburn coming to talk to the executive board and the advisory board about the book he co-authored, Homelessness is a Housing Problem, last year. And if you missed that meeting, I heard we do have that available on our YouTube channel. Dorsal's giving me the yes, so thank you. And so would highly encourage you to go check that out if you don't remember it, or if you're interested. And also it's available to the public. And then housing needs are outpacing the supply that we have. So we know we currently have a shortage of housing, and King County needs almost 309,000 new units of housing by 2044. That is a lot of housing. And of this total, 63% are needed for households earning less than 80% area median income, or AMI. So the state is also requiring our cities and counties to plan for the increased growth, and wants to see that reflected in the 2040 or 2024 comprehensive plan updates. So here is the latest estimate from King County on the countywide housing needs projections. And I should note that this is draft from the county. And I did confirm with Michaela that it was okay to show this at this point. It is public. So this chart shows our county alone needs 124,000 new units of 0 to 30% AMI housing units by 2044. So that is like adding an entire city of Kent in that income bracket alone. And you can see the other housing needs by income level as well, including the need for 120% AMI and above. All right, enough of me talking right now. Let's do an icebreaker. So I would like executive board members, the folks that are sitting here, if your staff work group member is here or is online, would like you to pair with them. And we have chairs we can set out, we can move these chairs around, folks can come over to you, you can stand, however you'd like to do that. But then I'd also then like you to join with another small group. And if there's just individuals, we're just gonna, we wanted to get into groups of 3 or 4. But a combination of board members and staff work group members would be great. And then I'd like you to, we're going to take about 10 minutes together, and I'd like you all to go around and talk about what excites you most about being part of SKIP. So with that, any questions? I think also we had talked about for folks attending online, they could call your executive board member, or I know your board member is online, so you guys can connect over the phone, but just trying to figure out a way that we can involve everyone. So, so with that, any questions? All right, let's stand up and find your pairs.
Taking notes. Oh, yes.
No, you don't have to take notes.
I know.
Okay, great then. Yeah.
I'll figure it out, I guess.
No, just join us. I mean, put on our pair, yes. Yeah. Join us.
Gotta get my timer going.
You know what?
All right, here we go.
I know. But it doesn't matter. No, if you're welcome to join us, or you're welcome. Have you met Bonnie Wilkins? The question is what excited you.
What are you gonna do? Join you.
Start?
I got Eric online too.
Okay, so maybe we'll
Okay.
chat.
This happened yet, so I'm really super.
I just call her.
So we,
On all levels.
Party. Gonna be towards you with that, so I think that's good. All right, we're gonna start the timer now. 10 minutes.
And go.
Yeah, no,
This is a big sequence. That's nice to see kind of. And I. Oh, I don't know. Oh, very. I agree.
And this is the, like, some of my and the consequences of it.
Yeah.
I'm excited about. Things. Oh, I hear your name all the time. Yeah. Okay, it's so nice to put it. Yeah.
Hi, Eric, Nicholas.
What?
I'm here with Denari and Sarah in our group. You can see us talking, but yeah, no, you sound pretty ragged, so don't worry about it. Yeah, well, that's true. All right, so we're just spending 10 minutes talking about.
Not very many cities did.
Yeah.
What excites you most about being part of SKIP? And. But.
They don't really understand what.
First, they said it was an icebreaker. I could break the ice.
Break the ice, sounds good.
You know, I see it for our city, from our city council standpoint, as just a learning opportunity. First, but then also, opportunity to other cities and by the county and other stakeholders. Around the issue.
Yeah. Thank you.
Try to contextualize that, what for us is a really unusual housing environment, and do the best we can to contribute to this issue. But also make sure that we're doing our very best to represent our residents and have a strong policy. So it's financial resources and have a lot less to understand but just under other cities.
How's-
do this for a longer period of time. You know, that we really can to contextualize into our local our context.
Well, how do we bring in private resources to projects and a way that ones are communities for each and really excited how that sub-base. That's something that we
Yeah. Both Hannah and I sit on the staff working group, but we also sit on the, she does in her cover. That executive board. And I think the thing that I find still amazing is that we are actually. By JR.
Like, I can't.
Hi,
call
Michaela.
it- Yeah, chest on back. So.
Ways to.
Yeah.
You know, lots of discussion about one, but not enough. That's my first, so now.
Then that offers them a lap.
Most cities have embraced it.
We have like.
Not sort of that intelligence, government, agreement on policies and things like that, but I think it's like a few opportunities for some cities. And together, when it comes to affordable housing, just help to have that collaboration, investments in our communities. And I never so for me, I'm still proud and amazed. And other parts of feel like this is that mechanism that's taken quite a while to actually come to fruition. So and I agree also with idea of actually seeing housing bills. You know,
So I guess, Nicholas, I guess I would just echo some of the other things in terms of learning from other organizations. I was in Bellevue for a number of years and watched Arch its magic and was able to be part of that, supporting it from a long range planning perspective. So, you know, I don't hear a lot of people reference SKIP as the Arch of South King County, but the model has succeeded. And I think Arch, I hear
so the opportunity
in
to
this
share
part,
ideas.
the part acknowledging and recognizing Eric's
Really exist with business.
awareness about Normandy Park, but trying to look at the Arch model itself as something that we can build on and learn from. Because we've seen it work successfully, and now another opportunity to see it work down in South King County.
Yeah, right, that's great.
If I had to be like,
Yeah.
the parallels.
Wow, yeah, right. And as a council member,
Very strong.
how's that going? It was my first transaction. Yeah. My campaign was at 20. Finally started exactly what I'm like, just kidding. I know, it's that weird. That's really hard. It's hard to be in campaign.
That's really good to build on, but that what's the Eric thing is you have an opportunity to recognize preservation as a legitimate tool to address some of these community issues. It isn't just trying to build, it isn't just trying to buy funding. There's actually housing that's there now that I think has been overlooked in the calculus for so long. And an organization like SKIP gives the ability of folks in every jurisdiction to talk about that in a broader way.
So when you feel the of that.
Actually, one of the things they were talking by Nicholas and I, our city manager. One of the
Think we're.
perspective shifts that happened for me in that conversation is what I think you just said. We can't necessarily do something transformational citywide in terms of network policy, but we can really make a lot of investments in conservation. And as we acknowledge, you know, our demographic aging population and population that are just in an economic reality.
Did you
20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it's just not the same as what they're experiencing today.
Yeah.
In terms of the tax burden, state tax burden.
I need to know.
Cost to a fixed income. And, you know, they're getting it priced out and there's.
I didn't.
I think there's like I can't try. But either way, you know. You already knew the answer. I don't know the answer, but I know what I want. That's all that matters. Yeah. Well, we're you know. Yeah. We have two. Yeah. One is the part of the other one, and they're ground.
That's, I think what we really, I would really like us to focus on.
And the other.
Particularly because of how we participate as a community in SKIP and how we know our community sees things and is encouraged about things and is fearful of things at the same time. Cool. Hey, new salary. Oh, sorry, that.
Yeah.
But I do feel confident, again, just speaking as a staff to this community, is that this community asks a lot of hard questions, and I think they should ask a lot of hard questions, and I think SKIP is a starting point for that, but the broader we can have that conversation, focused on things that people start to recognize. Preservation is about staying in your home, it's about understanding tax burdens, all of that linkage lets us come back and organization like SKIP, like Arch, be able to do things in a meaningful way, and people can say, wait a minute, this is something that affects all of us, it isn't just something else. Well, we got the 1 minute warning, Eric, so. Do you want to stay online, or do you want me to call you back? Okay. Well, well, how about when we need to come back and engage again, I'll just give you a call back.
Well, they're the ones asking.
Okay, thanks, sir.
That part, this is a part of our
Okay.
administration program, which was an average. So.
It's got a 7.
They can like.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I know I last talked to you at the state conference. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like my first.
By yourself. No, that's right, your parents. Yes, yeah.
It can be like aspirational until it
Mine,
plays out on the
mine,
ground.
my son works over there. So I had lunch with him, came over. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a.
There's a mysterious person behind there. Yeah. All right, so
Thank you all for that.
Thank you. Yeah, give them an opportunity then.
So, I would love to hear from a few groups, if you're willing to share. What was some of the things that you talked about? Just raise your hand or call it out.
I can go because I'd like, we kind of got on a roll building off of one another at the end there. I think in the beginning, we talked a lot about, this being a nexus of place of learning and being able to understand what the aspects of communities and the similarities between our communities, and just the power of collaboration. But then afterwards, we also sort of landed on this conversation about preservation and how much of the dialogue is often focused on building new, but particular to South King County, there's such a need for preservation of affordability, and that can take multiple forms, right? Both the preservation of some of the existing multifamily affordable housing, but also housing stability for people on fixed incomes who are seeing prices increase around them that don't really match with their income increases.
Thank you. Other groups, what'd you talk about? What excites you most about being part of SKIP? What'd your group talk about? Yeah.
We talked about like collaboration, the fact that we've all have all of our region here represented and our ability to collaborate, which also the pooling of funds to fund projects in our region is something powerful, as well as just having a central body that could speak, you know, like speak with a unified voice. Of course, we know what how we get to that process, but it's also helpful, let's say, to the region, like for King County, to be able to have us coordinated in this way.
Nice, thanks. Did I see a hand over here too? Yes.
We forgot, this is how we used to do this if you want to talk.
All right.
Thank you.
That's fun. I like it.
Well, thank you. Segue from that comment that several is more together is more powerful than one. And so we appreciate that, the collaboration and participation together. And then as a resource, it enables us to have a little bit more local authority and influence about how housing resource comes into the South County. If we recognize that we may collectively have some unique challenges, then we can address those specifically versus the pool of all King County funds just going into a giant bucket. So I think I'm excited about that. I think we appreciate that.
Great. Thank you. Yes, and we do know that our South King County needs are different than some of the other parts of King County. So it's important. Anyone else dying to share? Oh, yes.
So I digressed our group quite a bit. I admit to that up front and chatted about a few other things like House Bill 1110, but also just how excited when Marty Koistra and when we started talking several years ago about the need for having an organization similar to Arch so that we could take care of our own community, and that preservation is such a strong issue for us, but how excited we are that several years prior to when we thought we would have a capital fund available and actually fund projects, it's came about much earlier than we initially anticipated it would be, and just how exciting that is because of the House Bill 1406 and $1590.
That's great. And 3 years seems slow in some respects, right? But
it's really slow, but it's really not.
Yeah, given the amount of work it is, and yes, so it's an important point, right? This is this kind of work requires taking that long view and having patience and just taking it step by step. So, well, great. Well, thank you all for that activity. And I would say too, if staff work group wants to share out, feel free to at any of these times when you all are working together. So you are welcome to join in. All right, so moving on. So I wanted to briefly go over the 2024 work plan development process. And so the way we started this year, you did a survey at your last executive board meeting, asking a few questions. And this was really just a first glance, taking the temperature, me being new, not knowing all of your priorities and your interest areas. So that's also why we're here today, to talk a little bit more in depth about that. We gave that same survey to the advisory board. We wanted to see from their perspective what their priorities were. We have the workshop today, so that's where we are. After today, I'm going to be developing a draft based on today's conversation to share with our staff work group and the advisory board to get feedback on that. We'll likely be touching base at our next executive board meeting to get more direction on things that kind of come up today, and go over some possible budget options. And then the goal is to have a final draft to you by the May 19th meeting for your consideration and recommendation. And then after that, we would be thinking about going to your councils for adoption, and likely we'll be working with you to help us understand how best to engage your legislative bodies and get their feedback. So more to come on that, but that is the outline. So you took the survey last meeting. The purpose, like I said, was to gauge where your interests are at, get a feel for your priorities, see where we have alignment with your fellow board members. And in your packets, you have, in your agenda packets, you have the 2023 work plan, which was used to create the survey. So, when you were asked to prioritize things, that was all taken off the 2023 work plan. Also in your packet, you should have the summary and anonymized survey results for the executive board and the advisory board. It looks something like this on your screen. And then you should also have your individual survey results. And we are not sharing those with Dorsal, and I did not share your individual results with other board members. That said, you are more than welcome to share them if you are interested. For the survey, items that we have to do to be in compliance with the ILA were excluded from that survey. And I'm going to briefly go over the answers to the first question for the executive board, because it directly relates to our priorities activity later with the easels. So on the summary of the results, you'll notice the full titles got cut off on the far left. So if you want to see the item's full title, you can view that in the work plan or on your individual survey results. So that was there's nothing we could do about that, unfortunately. So for question one, from the executive board, the question was, what are the top 5 items that should remain on the 2024 work plan? So tied for first were 3 items, each got 6 votes. First was develop a long-term funding strategy for the Housing Capital Fund and facilitate conversations with member jurisdictions to identify and explore dedicated sources of revenue for affordable housing at regional and local levels. The second tied for top with 6 votes was work with private investors and lenders to maximize leverage of public investment into affordable housing. And the third tied for first was develop sub-regional housing preservation strategies. The next tier got 5 votes each, develop a plan to build capacity at SKIP, and develop a program to assist member cities with administering local housing incentive programs, including density bonuses, MFTEs, impact fee waivers, and other programs. For 4 votes, which I consider, some of the top priorities, if it got 4 votes or more, was 2 items: work collaboratively with public funders at the state and local levels to promote shared affordable housing goals and equitable geographic distribution of resources, and convene city and county land use planners to share best practices and increase coordination and collaboration on housing policy and planning. So that are things like our SKHHP group and the joint planners and developers group, I would say could be included in that one. So for the advisory board, top 5 items we asked them that should remain on the 2024 work plan. So only 8 folks responded to this one. We have now 12 members on the advisory board. Dorsal's giving me the yes. So of the 8, 7 said that developing a long-term funding strategy for the Housing Capital Fund was in their top, similar to executive board. And then coordinating with housing organizations and stakeholder groups to provide education and engagement opportunities for elected officials, stakeholders, and community members also got 7 votes. And the next tier was 5 votes with work collaboratively with public funders at the state and local levels to promote shared affordable housing goals and equitable geographic distribution of resources. So for question 2 from the executive board, what are the top 5 items across any category, critical, important, or desirable that you are supportive of leaving off the work plan? So 7 votes came in with work with HDC, affordable housing developers, and city and county planners to reimagine the South King County Joint Planners and Developers Group. That might be, I think there's a lot of like historical context in that particular item. So it could be, we don't know a whole lot about that one. But having been to the South King County Joint Planners and Developers Group, it's a pretty fantastic group. And so just wanted to make sure I shouted them out. And then also 6 votes, annual updates to non-skip South King County cities and relevant stakeholder groups. So 6 folks thought that they would be supportive of leaving that off. And then the second item was support efforts to advance 5-year action plan identified by the Regional Affordable Housing Task Force. So for the advisory board, what were they supportive of leaving off the work plan? Annual updates to non-skip South King County cities and relevant stakeholder groups. And so the third question was an open-ended question to you all, and it was, what would you like to see on the 2024 work plan that hasn't already been mentioned? And so we anonymized these, and I just wanted to share them with you to just kind of get a feel for what you each are kind of thinking. And so we heard about, pooling 1590 funds and clarifying the use. So that's something we're actually looking at this year. So just for you all to know. And I would also see that being grouped into the Housing Capital Fund sustainability. So know that this item is moving forward. Work with philanthropy. This item is also in the works. When we talk about private investment in the work plan, I see philanthropy being a part of that. And so also know that this item is happening. It's just maybe not in the verbiage explicitly. Post-legislative session analysis. So this is something that we certainly can do. There's also been ideas tossed around about increasing, maybe doing like a contract lobbyist or a shared contract lobbyist with, with other organizations that could do that. But know that that's, that is there. And then connect South King County planners and staff to resources and toolkits. And I would say that we're doing that with the SKHHP group and the Joint Planners and Developers group. And certainly there's more, intensity that we could be doing with that item, but just wanted to acknowledge that one as well. And then 4 responses came in about either addressing the root causes of homelessness or homelessness prevention. And I did want to talk briefly about that. So based on our established ILA and the stated goals of SKIP to focus on the importance of production and preservation of housing to address one of the root causes of homelessness. So acknowledging that, and we all know that there are a lot of issues that lead to someone being unhoused. If the board wanted to expand our scope, we would need to amend the ILA, which requires approval from all of the councils. And we would likely require additional funding and staff with an expanded scope or a reduction in our current work. And I also want to acknowledge that the Regional Homelessness Authority is the primary organization addressing the issues around homelessness in King County. They have a lot of staff. I was looking at their website yesterday and saw all the vacancies. And so that gave me a sense of the size of that organization. And one thing I think I can do a better job of thinking about homelessness prevention and how our work connects to homelessness is to, I would say, make that connection more often and explicitly, because the work that we are doing is directly connected. I would say with the housing preservation strategies, if we can preserve housing, we're going to be preventing additional folks into homelessness. So that is huge, and that is really our big ticket item for this year and possibly next year, especially with it being one of the #1 items from your survey. But also, I want to mention that the project that the jurisdictions who contributed to the Housing Capital Fund, the Mercy Housing Rental Project in Burien, has a 40% set aside for households experiencing homelessness, which is huge. I mean, that is a big deal, and you all should feel, I would say, really good about that. And you know, for the lucky few that can transition into those units and be stabilized, that is a life-changing experience. And so I do want to acknowledge that, you know, how the work is connected to homelessness. And I'm going to try and talk about that a little bit more so that that's top of mind for us. So 3 folks said the work plan is very comprehensive. Nothing more to add. So with the advisory board, asking them the same open-ended question, 5 of the 8 responded. It's very comprehensive, nothing to add. One response was key initiatives that fit under critical items. I see that being a lot of the things we're doing already on the work plan, addressing homelessness and collaborating with the Regional Homelessness Authority. One person had brought that up. And then more frequent updates to the advisory board on actions in member jurisdictions. And I thought this item was really interesting. And to me, that means there is this desire from the advisory board to plug in more to your individual communities in order to best advise the board. So excited to hear that feedback. And that brings us to our next activity. So we will be comparing the executive and advisory board survey. I'd like you to partner up with a fellow board member. And then I'd like the staff work group to partner with another staff work group member. So we're just going to be in pairs. And if the numbers are odd, like you can join a team of 2 to make 3. But I want you to spend 10 minutes talking about the survey results of the executive board and the advisory board. Then we'll briefly report out what we found. And you can, again, just a reminder, view the survey results in your packet. Those slides that you were seeing with the charts are all in your agenda packet and should also be in the public facing agenda packet. So prompt questions, just what stands out to you? Is there alignment? Where are there differences? And so we'll take 10 minutes to do this and then we'll come back. Sound like a plan? All right.
Ready? Yeah, not after I finish eating.
Side by side. It's hard to see. Okay. From us. You know, maybe
Good idea, so.
Yeah, I was.
And none of us did.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find.
Oh, no, you know, I'm not. This is not- it's not like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
education.
Yeah. Stapling now. So that, when I read that, I was like, well, that makes sense. Staff side, there's a lot of members of the advisory board, staff here. And so. That's how I took it. And apparently we don't think we need any. Right, I think that was the thing that stood out to me the most. Yeah, and I guess for me, when I looked at the survey, we do this like, so it didn't seem to me to be something really easy to add. And I think we had a conversation about that. So it didn't. It felt like.
That's not sure.
Like, right, we've done sort of foundation work and yeah. Have that one. You know, right. So that was part of how I think it was. That and it was. So. I think that was private, definitely, and that, and then the other two were right up there at the top. There was less acceptance on the long-term funding strategy that aligned. I've marked up. Yeah, so that I thought it was really interesting that we had this private investors, lenders, and then developing preservation strategy. We had none here. And I don't know if part of this, it's like this is not. Almost your market. So it can't be, it's gotta be that. Right? So I think that. None of us alone. Even. I thought about that kind of how I would say, because I know that I know that's we can leave. Financial position is. That's certainly what I'm talking about. Yeah. There's something I wanted to make it shift. I like the space, right? A tiny new apartment where it's that's not right. And I mean, I have to go back. Yeah, it stands out. Like up the feelings. Well, some of the things that you highlighted, I highlighted there. The very, they're in the long-term funding.
This one, and then like making the connection. It's interesting to me that there were seven, is really. Yeah. Not. Any, right. Coordination. And it seems to me that those two things really are. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me, unless it is a nonprofit standpoint. This belief is the money. Yeah. I don't know. This member city. Not us.
The 4-minute timer.
One, yeah, and then sort of. Yeah. Feels like. Different sides of the same coin. It has to be the foundation.
Yeah.
On this first, on our side, yeah, the ones, the numbers with the circles on our side and then the subsequent. So yeah, it feels strange to me. We're not, but yeah. Yeah, I think. Deep conversation. Yeah. Question. Then people are gonna lose. So it looks like, and no matter how much new stocks we build, it is more expensive than the stock that exists. I hope it's hard.
Yeah, down here, they said, if you're gonna, because otherwise I don't. And you'll update. Do not.
The one that we were aligned on is this one on the back page, annual updates to non-SKIP cities, 6 and 8. I think this one too, just think about that. HPC developers, city and county planners to reimagine South County joint planners and developers. I guess is finding our group, so people are like, to be it's why. And to their point, that's right. I don't know. Right, so I don't think it was, we don't want to work this way, because we don't need to work on it.
Support efforts.
At least that's how I took it when I checked that box.
Yeah.
We have this support efforts to advance 5-year action plan identified.
So it's not something we should.
So I'm originally. I don't know enough about that. I just want to make sure. I am the common factor. It's good to see that. Some of the same as
So I just think,
I don't think we have you know, I did. I never knew, but I feel like. We want to see this plan was that we were comprehensive. Yeah, which feels very reasonable to me. It's in our.
Yeah, and
like how do we keep getting and stable housing.
Let's do one more minute, start finishing up.
I'm not. Yeah, potentially have 2 council members running for makes these. Yes, I know, when I ran for mayor, I was looking at a little bit of running and the year I ran. That was also. No, but it's stuff that's affecting where now you're like. Yeah, so too. So I'm like, one of those people. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I think because.
Whether it's another one, everybody knows. That's like, yeah, I keep waiting. I'm like. She's saying.
All right. Time is up.
Yeah, it's pretty much announced. He's been out there, yeah. So.
The bigger problem is, yeah, that's right. I mean, I feel like that.
All right.
Well, and what do you-
All right. Is that a thing?
Notably.
I feel like that's something you know, a teacher would use, but
No, it was like first grade.
There you go. Yeah.
right.
TT talk, TTT talk. There you go.
I love it. We have a lot of talented clappers here. A lot of people with rhythm. It's good. What did you discuss? What were some of the things that stood out to you? Where was the alignment? Where was there not alignment? I'd like to hear from various folks. Yes.
So we talked about that very first item, develop the long-term funding strategy, was obviously the most aligned there. On the not aligned, the advisory group on the coordinate with housing organizations and stakeholders, wondering if that's not, to me, it feels like it's just what we do at every meeting. Like we're having those educational opportunities. It's part of what we do. So I don't know what the thought process was. Maybe people read it differently, or maybe the advisory group just thinks we need to learn more. So
Which item was it again?
the coordinate with housing organizations and stakeholders to provide education for elected officials.
Yeah.
So it feels like to me, that's what our agenda does. We've got that, that piece down. So I think we were wondering if maybe it was interpreted differently. And then the other place where things were weirdly unaligned were the work with private investors and lenders to maximize leverage of public investments. And so this group said that's really important, whereas the advisory group felt like collaborating with public funders was more important. And I think we figured we need to do all of the above, and maybe as folks that are doing the work on the public side, we have a much stronger insight into the fact we don't have enough money. So we have to find those private partners.
Thank you. And I have some thoughts on your first point, which I'll share later. And thank you for that analysis. That was great. Other folks, what stood out to you? Alignment differences, or did you have the same thoughts as Dana and Cynthia?
We definitely had same thoughts on those. We just kept going. So where it says develop, those were definitely the top two most unaligned items. But convene city council. I'm sorry, I have to come from here, right here. Convene city council land use planners to share best practices and increase coordination and collaboration on housing policy and planning. That's a loaded one, but it was misaligned there as well. And then. Did you say the development? No, you didn't. Developed a program to assist member cities with administering local housing incentive programs. Density bonuses, so long that was also pretty far along. But I agree as well. There's funding. Maybe being in our position, it's so evident that we need that, like that's when this is the driver. Constantly looking for different opportunities to find it.
Thank you.
Stands out for us.
Yeah, thanks. Any other thoughts that came up? I'd love to hear from staff work group. Anyone want to share? Was there something else that you heard in your groups or talked about?
Nicholas talking to Bonnie, it turns out Wines and right next to each other. Go figure. There we are next to each other.
Literally, and
From our perspective, it's actually long-time homeowners is on ourselves. I asked her to sort of look at what just stood out to me, and I think what stood out to my council member is the 4 board members and the 3 advisory panel members talked about root causes of homelessness. And trying to pursue that in terms of other than housing, which I think is part of that central mission of SKIP. So for us, just trying to figure out what aspects of that would allow us to return back to that core mission of SKIP, addressing housing as a lack of housing supply as a root cause of homelessness in regards to people that we talk about that. And again, I don't mean to evidence any biases, but people like us, like our baristas, our police officers, our teachers, I think it's important to acknowledge that a root cause of homelessness is being defined differently by different people and how they bring to it. But for 4 board members, 3 panel members to state that, it's both an opportunity to help return to that central mission of SKIP while recognizing that it plays a significant role. We were even talking about things like, is 30% still the right number? You know, is that the right threshold to be able to deal with these questions? And our experiences of our own staff and their ability to find work and work in the place, live in the place where they work. So I think that's, I don't think we want to set that addressing root causes question aside. At least our perspective is it doesn't rise to the work plan, but it still has to be there. It has to constantly be part of the conversation with that particular reference to who consumes the housing that we're providing. It isn't just what people might think of as, and again, I'm not apologize for any bias I might be representing. It's not just typical the people you think of as homeless people, but people for whom homelessness is 30% away or 40% away.
Can I ask a follow-up question? What is the 30% you're referencing?
The AMI number.
Thank you. Thank you.
30% of your income is supposed, that's what you're supposed, that's what housing is supposed to be for anybody. Anybody's supposed to take 30% of their housing and their income and buy housing. That was the number.
Cost burdened households. Yes. So
I can assure you that my older son is cost burdened.
So for the public's awareness and folks in this room, the cost burden is you're considered cost burden if you spend more than 30% of your income on housing related expenses, and that includes utilities.
Right.
When I talk about the cost burden disproportionately impacting communities of color in South King County, that's kind of what we're talking about. And
can I just state that about 10 years ago, I was actually a loan officer. This is what I did all the time. And it strikes me as a little bit, when I read this, I'm like, I tilt my head, because when I was doing loans years ago, the
AMI, or the LTV, as loan officers would say, which would be your loan to value, loan to income value. It was 40, even 50%, which was a normal thing then. And we didn't have the amount of homelessness that we do now. So something is lost in the translation as we trickle down as well, because when someone was allowed to give away $2,500 of their $5,000 monthly income to homes, and that was normal. Right now, to think that 30%, including utilities, is now a cost burden. And I'm speaking my mind, but these are questions that maybe we should be asking. When COVID hit, certainly we saw an amount of severe increase in homelessness. However, we also saw a great amount of increase in jobs that were vacant. Why? We can't just, these homes that will be provided, they will still have to be paid for in some amount, right? You can't just give free housing to everyone who needs it, who's a little over 30% AMI. And my question is, it's not that we have to sit here and define the entire root cause of homelessness. And obviously, housing is an issue. Don't take my, I'm not discrediting that. But to assume that it's that the true root cause, and we're the only root cause of homelessness is housing, I think that would be short-sighted of us to see as the only and the main. Whether it's more, I don't think that SKIP needs to expand their scope and hire on. If this is what we're doing, this is great. But the conversations that we are having should probably represent what is going on in society. And just address, at least discuss and address some of these issues that are going on, because it's true. You look around, I'm trying to get, my favorite food from my favorite small hole in the wall restaurant, and they're closed. Why? Because they don't have anyone to work. And yet we're seeing all these homeless people. My husband has offered jobs. He works in a field that he can. When you offer someone the ability to increase their quality of life and they refuse it, it's difficult to say that it's only housing. So how do we at least have the right conversations, and then obviously address the housing issue as well? Not to be the Debbie Downer, but we know we're having an increase. The population is increasing at an astronomical rate. Absolutely. I'm okay with that. I come from Ukraine, and in Ukraine, although I left many years ago, affordable, they don't call it affordable housing, but multi-unit housing is the main form of housing, and it works. And I think the American dream has been so amazing for so many people. How do we have the right conversations and get to a place where we can all benefit from that, including our developers? We have to incentivize them, because if we keep tying their hands behind their back and then just demanding things that, well, we see what's happening in the economy of development right now. Yeah, maybe not expand our scope of a SKIP, but our scope of conversations just a little.
So I think we could probably talk about what you just said for the rest of the day if we to unpack it. And no, but thank you for sharing your thoughts. And so I'm doing a time check, and I want to make sure we have enough time to get through the last activity. One last point on the survey, what stood out, differences? Yes. Tracy.
Mostly just a point when filling it out to recognize this is for 1 year, 2024. When we're filling it out, we're not making a statement about the overall vision, goal, and mission of SKIP forever. Yeah. That we need to recognize where we are in a point of time and our capacity in U and dorsal. What do we want to see happen in 2024? So I think sometimes people may have filled this out thinking I'm making a statement about this entire organization forever. And that's not the case. So there are some things I didn't put here, even though I thought overall should be a big long line, but not for 2024.
Gotcha. Excellent point. Thank you. Yes, good clarification. All right, well, so thank you all for your analysis on that. I did my own summary analysis on the slide. I don't know if you can see it in the front there yet. All right, thank you. So alignment, I didn't hear anyone say, both folks kind of thought the work plan was comprehensive, so I was throwing that on there. I heard several folks mention the developing a long-term funding strategy for the Housing Capital Fund being in alignment. Also, I think there was alignment on maybe what folks might be supportive of leaving off the work plan. This could be the annual updates to non-skip cities, reimagining the joint planners and developers meeting, supporting efforts to advance affordable housing task force in the 5-year plan. Some of the differences that were mentioned, Dana, you mentioned coordinating with the housing organizations. Let's see, I want to read that one because it's not listed here. Coordinating with housing organizations and stakeholder groups to provide education and engagement opportunities for elected official stakeholders and community members. So this was the highest one on the advisory board, but lower for the executive board. And you had mentioned, Dana had mentioned, maybe this was because, the executive board does this at every meeting. This is just kind of built into what we do. My take on it was that I think it's maybe a philosophical difference in the different roles of, the advisory board's role approaches the work from an educational standpoint. Like it's built into the ILA. It says, so part of the mission of the advisory board, as stated in the ILA, is to provide public education and community outreach services. And actually right before we gave them the survey, we had a fairly robust conversation about how they could be doing, kind of leveraging that a little bit more as a group. And so I think it was very inspiring at the time, and then that influenced the survey results. And so, but that was a notable difference because it really didn't show up in the executive board priorities. And so that said, it doesn't mean it's not going to be on the work plan. It means that I think there's a lot of exciting work that can be done with the advisory board kind of leading on some of that work. Yeah, so, and then the other difference I saw, the developing a sub-regional housing preservation strategies was high for the executive board and lower for the advisory board. I chalk this up to the advisory board just not being as in the know on our, executive board priorities in that way. And so, also we're a newer group. And so I think it's just a matter of time until, we're helping them understand our mission and our priorities and goals. So thank you all for that. And now is the fun part. So
follow up with one quick question before we start. I just want to, on that, we talked a lot about the develop sub-regional housing preservation strategies. And I'm wondering, and you were there in the room with them, if part of what we're doing all the time, especially in South County, is trying to keep a hold of that existing housing stock. We have more of it than any other place in the county, potentially any other place in the state. But the regional and statewide conversation is all about how do we add more. And so I'm just wondering if, because it's the difference in perspective, like we're never going to solve the housing crisis if we don't add hundreds of thousands of units, and we're all like, just let us take care of what we've got because it matters. And so I'm just curious if there was any sort of conversation around that.
there wasn't, but I hear what you're saying, and I have also heard that at the state level, we just don't really hear a lot about housing preservation.
We've been doing this a lot, and it's like, let us keep what we've got. Stop, you got to take care of what you have before you tear it out.
Yeah. And I think it's something that is going to need to be addressed with, some of this upcoming legislation that's going to pass. And, as an anti-displacement measure, you know, that we're going to have to confront it and address it. And I think, you know, the timing for it being on our work plan this year and likely next year is important for that work. And really, I think SKIP has a role to play in promoting that idea and that concept, because it's not necessarily front of mind for our state delegation, our federal delegation. And so I think that is part of the conversation with SKIP that we can add value is making sure that idea is heard loud and clear. So thank you. Yeah.
Quickly on that, I think, you know, from the county perspective, we come from the both end, like we need to preserve and we need to add more. But those numbers you showed earlier that were from Michaela, they assume all existing affordability is preserved. That is just like hidden in those bar numbers, that everything that is already affordable will just stay that way. And then that 309,000 is on top.
Wow.
Which is why we're both and.
Yeah.
And that means that, so with the new units, that means no existing units would be torn down to build new units, is what you're saying.
Well, that you would have to plus up the numbers even more in order to say that. So like so if you tore down an existing unit, you would need to make sure you replace the existing units and added the additional amount in order to reach the kind of overall targets.
And I think that's the biggest flaw in like 1110 is that you're collectively we will be losing and not replacing. 4 units of expensive housing will be taking out 1 unit of affordable housing.
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot of housing we need to address. So this is our last activity. Thank you for sticking with me. You will see 3 easels over here. And we have a corresponding handout. You all should have, it looks like this. And I think staff work group members have it on their chair as well. I also emailed it yesterday morning if you want to refer to the digital copy. So this chart lists everything that are on the easels. And I'm going to walk through the chart briefly with you. So categories in the far left. There are 3 categories. There's higher consensus. These are the items where, based on your survey results from the executive board results, these are the top items. We're going to be asking you to select your top 2 from this. And then below that is the lower consensus. These are items that were not as high as the blue category, but just things I would like your direction on in terms of how to prioritize these on the work plan. We're going to be asking you to vote for your top 3 there, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to do 1, 2, or 3 in priority order. We're just kind of do it as a group. And then the category at the bottom, other, these are the items not included in the voting. So these are items that are required by our ILA, like the annual work plan and the quarterly reports, items related to the administration of the Housing Capital Fund. I don't think you want to throw that into the other priorities. That is something we know needs to get done. The projects that we currently manage that aren't on the work plan, there's quite a number of those. So, but I didn't want to throw those into the mix. Administration is not included. New items that Dorsal and I would like to perhaps engage you on in the work plan. These are based on conversations that I've had with most of you. And then items that scored low on the survey, but we might recommend staying on the work plan, are also not included. And then items that both the executive board and advisory boards scored as supportive of removing from the work plan or as a low priority is also not on those. And to just look at the chart on the right, we've got 2 columns. First is the fiscal impact to SKIP budget. If any of these items would result in additional funding to accomplish for next year. I put a yes next to it. And so that just means that at the next meeting in April that I might come forward with some budget options for you to think about. And so I would say, do not let this deter you from voting for those. We will work through it and you know, make it happen. The yes under the long-term funding strategy, I just said yes because that would likely, that could mean, you know, maybe as part of the many options that we might be exploring, you know, contributing additional funds to it from your respective jurisdictions. Not that that is necessarily the way, but it might be part of the options we explore. And just to explain a little bit on the far right column, the estimated annual SKIP staff capacity. So this one is, I took my best estimate, thinking about Dorsal and I's time. This assumes over the course of the year, we have 2,080 hours each. And then thinking about how many hours each of these items might take up. Again, this is an estimate. If you're a statistical math genius, please don't hold this against me. But this is on average what I think we might be spending our time on. And you'll notice that administration is at 30%, and that really encompasses a lot. That includes not only kind of the day-to-day operations that we do, like setting up the public meetings, running the public meetings. The advisory board is a public meeting. It's general management, but it also includes holidays. It includes vacation, and it includes some buffer, a few days for sick time. And so, you know, deducting that. So I want to be upfront about that. And I have, if you want to talk more about these categories, I have examples under each one, but did just want you to give you that, not to, again, deter you from voting for any particular thing, but wanted to give you just a sense of our overall capacity. And you'll notice that the totals do not add to 100%. They add to 148%. And so just for consideration. So that could mean that we leave some items off the work plan. It could be that we do less of one item. It could mean adding staff capacity if that's a direction the board wants to go. So, so with that, let's take a few minutes to review the items in the categories. I know you've been looking at them, but you're also hearing me talk, so I know that can be distracting. But I want to take a few minutes for the board members and staff work group too to just review these items. And then I'd like you to pair with your staff work group member. And this would be a time too for those connecting online and in person to, yep, dial a friend. And we're going to, once you have reviewed it, you've got your top two in the higher consensus category and your top three in the lower consensus category. That's the middle easel and the right easel. I'd like you to solicit your staff work group members' feedback on your selection. And we'll take about 10 to 15 minutes to just talk about that. So this is just a, you know, what do you think? Here's what I'm thinking, you know, from your perspective, what are your thoughts? And then after that, we're gonna go and place stickers up there, and I will give you stickers when that time comes. So with that, you wouldn't mind pairing with your staff work group member? Yes.
Not actually voting for items not included in them.
Correct.
Forming.
Yes. Thank you for that important clarification. It is there for reference. Yes. All right.
That's gonna go too.
Matt Torpy, can you hear me?
Oh, let's get you guys on the phone. That is fun. Oh, okay, good, great.
Hi. Yeah. That's what I was just telling her. I don't need to chat. Yes, thank you. So.
I mean, the church. Me, that's the part of. Yeah, actually. I feel like those are.
Right.
Well, I think that
You know, I was curious. Do we have that?
Yeah, yeah.
I wish it were.
But I was curious.
Various.
And I align. That person, I align.
No, I didn't.
Maximum leverage. Without them. We're just.
Commerce. Yeah. In the. About lovers with
Somehow it takes me for you. Bringing you to
yeah, you know, I have to. Oh, back to this. You like fire? But I do think. But I do think that there is a lot of value in some items for the music. Yeah. So that, so just that I mean, let me probably pick. Oh, yeah. They're 1%, right? Yeah, I do. Meeting is feel incredibly important to me. Actually, I like. Yeah, I think it's just nice to have.
Right, yeah, I think it's like, yeah, just the thoughts that.
And I think we're gonna do it. So you look at what's left.
Fine. The resources. And then I think.
Don't want.
I mean, that's what we're doing. Yeah. So I don't start where.
Should help.
Yeah.
Narrow it down. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, not like back is, I'd like to have her. So she was, 5 years. Yeah, so I started right out of school. School planner, I was like,
Have a stronger.
no, it's a bit more than that. And I think necessary. How do you feel? He's like, questions for one or two, they're so shut down. They're just trying to. One of the things you can. Okay. It's nice to have her back. Sure. Yeah. Exactly. And that's where I feel like it's fun as well. It's great to work with that.
Okay. All right. Same thing with the next party. And I felt like the. I agree with you,
Okay. Yeah, it's just.
And that was one that should have. No.
I right off. That last year.
Yeah, well, I think. Third guy, public fund, level, I mean, that's kind of what. Well, so. Yeah, kind of reading through them, kind of like. I'm gonna say one that.
Any color?
Just go for it.
We're just looking at the time. We're not gonna vote. Oh, yeah. Finish up. If you're ready to vote, I want to see your hand.
Monthly executive.
I want to see your hand if you're ready to vote.
I'm so.
Who's not ready?
That's what
Ready? All right, I just want to make sure we give folks enough time.
I disagree. I think you should, the way.
So let's finish up. I'll give you one more minute. One more minute to finish your thought.
Have any that you're looking at?
Yes, you did. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, I know, but yeah. Yeah. So I think. I'm right next to him. So like, when you look at. Next. You feel like you go and then.
Oh, they weren't horrible.
Yeah, so
I only really had to wear them for an hour, so, but I did immediately take them off.
I'm at the debt.
Thanks for being there. Right, it's fun, you know, just getting to brag on all the good stuff that's happening and.
Yeah.
All right.
That's our minute.
You know, you get people.
Here's one conversation finishing up.
I'm gonna stay with these.
Like the collaboration I see over here.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And we want that.
60.
We have 2 knots.
Oh, you have a.
All right.
Okay.
So
All right, thanks.
Next step. Thank you. This is the fun part. This is the moment I've been waiting for. I know you like to get up and move around, so we have cut out 5 stickers here for you. I'd like you, the executive board member, the alternate, come up and grab your 5. And you're going to pick your one sticker on your 1 and 2 top priorities under the higher consensus category. And then the other 3, one sticker on 1 item. No putting 3 stickers on your top one. So
Taking all the creativity out of this afternoon.
so I know how these things work. So again, 2 on the higher consensus, 3 on the lower consensus. So feel free to come on up and grab your
Oh, does it matter what color? Just any color.
It does not matter what color, although maybe
So-
we should made green first.
Happy birthday.
For the day.
Well, we'll know where you.
Well, there's other greens though too.
is it actually your birthday?
Now.
Going in there.
Half an hour. I'm American. He knows I'm American. Sounded like a good conversation. Yeah.
It is. How many other meetings, any other day of the year do you think we have color coordination? Right?
Stickers.
We're just that together, unified of a voice. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, nothing to do with the day. That's right. Can we lobby people while they're standing?
Oh, there are rules against that.
Oh, come on.
Who makes me?
Come on. Just think about building those relationships with the state. We may have some we need to repair after this session is over.
Easels or people?
People.
You know, we never clarified, instead of placing a sticker, perhaps we should have the power to remove somebody else's sticker.
You guys have power.
You can place two or you can remove one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Displacement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of scattershot. Yeah.
Yeah.
The yellows don't stand out as well. You're gonna go.
All right, so I'm using the handheld mic now, so folks at home can hear better. So it looks like we have, I would say, a large contingency who says the develop long-term funding strategy for the Housing Capital Fund and facilitate conversations with member jurisdictions to identify and explore the dedicated sources of revenue for affordable housing at the regional and local level. That is clearly the number one in that group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And yeah, the middle one is coming up next, the develop sub-regional housing preservation strategies. And I did include facilitate implementation. This can include like policy development. This is sort of part 2 because we're going to be diving into this year, but I figured 2024 will then be the how do we implement this strategy. So thank you for that. And then over here, the lower consensus. All right, there's a lot going on here because we have more stickers. So
Yeah, these two.
Yeah, definitely.
which ones?
Work collaboratively and work with member cities are tied.
All right, so tied, this is great. We've got help from the audience. Thank you. Work collaboratively with public funders at the state and local levels to promote shared affordable housing goals and equitable geographic distribution of resources. Was tied with work with member cities and project sponsor to start developing a pipeline of projects to be funded over the next 5 years. Great.
And then you've got a 3-way tie.
And then, all right, well, good. I'll figure out what to do with those later. But so thank you all. This really does help me figure out what your priorities are, how I should be prioritizing the work of the work plan. So much appreciation for your engagement and your willingness to use stickers in a public meeting. Much appreciated. And I'll be taking pictures of these for preservation. And I'm going to go back to the podium here. So that is a wrap for the workshop portion. Thank you all so much for your engagement, for coming in person. I hope that this was nice to see you all face to face. I know it was for me, so thank you. I so appreciate it. And if there are, I would say, if there's any other announcements or updates, I know that's on our agenda. I did just want to just plug the Housing Capital Fund adoption approval we received this week. So if anyone wants to talk about that and say a few words, I'm seeing a Sunar, does that mean you want to talk?
I want to talk, but not
about that? Okay, great. And then, we did provide a lot of food. So I know that's often okay to have as part of these public meetings. So again, if your policies allow food at public meetings, please do take some of that, especially the Gosenkos. And other updates. Yes.
Yeah, just because I don't see Bambi here, maybe she's online, just plugging for folks who might not yet have signed up for the HDC annual celebration on March 30th. Going to be an awesome opportunity to meet other housing champions and celebrate HDC as an HDC board member.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other updates or announcements? Yes, Tracy.
I mostly just wanted to thank you for this. This is very organized, well-planned. You got us all talking across, with our staff and with each other. I'm just impressed, Claire. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. And this is really Dorsal. Dorsal is at least 60% of this, so thank you to Dorsal. And thank you for those kind comments. Anything else? Oh, I see where you're going. So the plan is to meet quarterly in person and to do it at the end of each quarter. So the third month of each quarter. So the next one would be, is it June, Dorsal? Okay. And so the conversation is, do we have that here? Do we just do it here at every meeting logistically, or is there a willing host or an interested host for the in-person? So that's actually a question for you right now.
16th to the 23rd. And
Let's look.
It would be the 16th
of June.
June 16th. Thanks. We don't have to talk about it now.
No.
You can think about it. But also this, I mean, if you wanted to do it in Auburn, if this is, I'm not sure in terms of driving and all of that, but we could maybe do a follow-up survey and just ask folks, their level of willingness and interest, but yes, but this was, I would say, since Dorsal and I's offices are across the street at the annex, building there, not building, but bringing over the easels was pretty easy, but more to come. All right. Anything else? All right.
Everyone has a fabulous St. Patrick's Day and really appreciate you coming to Auburn. Hopefully you found parking easily. And I just really appreciate all of the work that you do, both on the executive board and the staff working group. We know that we couldn't do this work without all of you and your amazing day-to-day engagement with Claire and Dorsal and so many others in the region. It doesn't go unnoticed. We may not always say thank you in the same manner that we should, but please know that we appreciate your work so much. And the fact, Dana and I often say, for the longest time, we took care of one another because no one else would, no one else cared. And bringing this group together and proving that we take care of one another in South King County is something that's really meaningful and impactful to me. And I hope you realize how special that is. For the longest time, we just kind of sat back and took it. And now we have a voice and we are making sure that we are heard and we are doing things for the good of our communities. And that's something that we should all be proud of. Good, thank you. Thank you.
So I think you got to adjourn the meeting.
We are adjourned.
Want these, right? Leave these here.
Yes, we will hold on to those. Thank you.
Yeah, here.